Hello and welcome to episode 12 of Lone Star Legacy, the increasingly misnamed podcast from the Lone Star Lhurgoyfs. I'm Sam Craven. I'm drinking a Spindle Tap draped over. It's a super fucking fuzzy, hazy IPA and it's delicious. I've had like a gallon of it in the past 3 days.
It's Spindle Tap is the brewery?
Yeah.
Where are they from?
They're from here in Houston.
Oh, yeah. Never tried them. I'll have to do that.
I've never heard of him.
Well, anyway, I guess joining Sam, it's me, Stu. I'm also usually on here. I'm drinking a Founder's Breakfast Stout, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
You're a fan?
Yeah, I'm a fan.
Very appropriate for the weather we're having.
Yeah.
Well, for the majority of my adult life, what's that been?
It's definitely stout weather, like all weather is.
Well, the thing is, like, I haven't for most of my adult life, I haven't been a big, like, stout fan, but I've gotten, like, burnt out lately on, like, IPAs, which have been my focus for a little bit, and I'm finding a new appreciation for stouts. I actually bought this for when you came up this past weekend, Ben, and then I didn't like drink any of it, but I'm enjoying it.
And anyway, I'm the last one on today, Ben Kendrick. I've been on here before. I'm just drinking Coke.
Cool. Get that caffeine in at 6:45.
Well, I guess let's go ahead with our first topic. We're going to be kind of rambling today. We just don't have anything particular to talk about. So let's start with last Saturday. Stu ran an event in Austin. Why don't you tell us about it, Stu?
Yeah.
Both of you were there, so I guess I'm going to be useless.
Yeah, well, you can like shit on things you saw from afar anyway. But yeah, this past weekend we ran a vintage event in Houston, or not in Houston, in Austin. I'd been organizing it with two other guys, Brian Tweedy and Patrick Vincent. For anyone who's actually like stayed with us and listened to every episode we've done, we've talked a lot about vintage community building and what it's like to get your own scene set up. So we were kind of following in the lead of Sam and Ben and all you guys in Houston and trying to get our own thing happening in Austin. We're starting a series called Romancing the Stones, which is going to be a proxy vintage in Austin every 6 weeks. And we had our inaugural event on Saturday at Fourth Tap, where we held our charity event a few months ago. Went well. We got like 24 guys, which is awesome. I'm pretty sure that's the most we've had for any Goyf affiliated event.
I believe the Red Cross event had more. I'm pulling it up right now.
But I'm not certain. Could be
very
close.
Oh, the previous one was 21. So yeah, you actually did with fewer prizes. You got more people.
Yeah, exactly. We were just paying out cash.
Yeah.
It was also a pre-release weekend, so there were at least among vintage players probably very little competition for other things to do.
Yeah, that was our thought. As we're planning these moving forward, we're going to try to work around events, but I think pre-releases there isn't going to be as much overlap. But yeah, so it went well, and the cool thing is we got 24 guys, and almost all of them were from Austin, which is nice because when we did our Red Cross event, like half the people there were Houstonites and other out-of-towners. So it was nice to see that we could get a good turnout almost entirely off the back of locals, which makes me hopeful that moving forward we could even exceed that, because if we have that strong of a base here and we can maybe get some more of the Houston guys coming out, it's not inconceivable we could eventually break 30.
Yeah, I think a bunch of us had last-minute stuff come up. I just didn't have a way to get out there. I know a couple other people just had things come up at the very last minute.
Well, that's the dilemma of playing, I think, vintage in particular, but all of these eternal formats is like you're talking about a group of people who are adults with other commitments, and like things either come up in advance or they come up last minute. And likewise, Texas is a pretty big state. So like the drive from Houston to Austin isn't entirely negligible. Like if you're going to come down here for a weekend, it's
easy, but I wouldn't do the drive. I wouldn't round trip it with a Magic tournament in between.
Right, exactly. But Ben from Houston, Ben and Tim Everett both came down. which was awesome. So thanks for coming out.
So anyway, that's on that.
Wait, sorry, what was that? You cut out on my.
Do you have the stats on what we got for a meta?
I haven't organized it.
I've got that. I can. Well, I don't have it broken down into numbers, but I can recite the deck list out real quick, and it'll be pretty clear what stands out.
It was very healthy.
From 24th to 1st, I'm just going to go really quick. Doomsday, Merfolk, Energy, Burn, Ravager Shops, Merfolk, Landstill, Leovold, White Trash, Oath, Landstill, Flash Reactor, Bug, White Eldrazi, Ravager Shops, Blue Red Delver, Landstill, Bob's Revenge, Blue Red Delver, 5-color Humans, Rug W Pile, Hollow One Dredge, Ravager Shops, White Eldrazi. So that's 3 shops, 2 White Eldrazi, and I think those are the only doubled up decks. I guess Bug and Leovold.
3 land still, actually, I think.
Yes, that's pretty good. It's cool that y'all got that much land still. We actually also had 2 still decks Sunday before last. We had one guy on land still, and I was playing Myth Realize standstill.
Yeah, well, my impression is that Austin players really like fair blue decks, so like land still is going to be popular in this scene. But another thing I think we all listen to so many insane plays, and something that I think Steve Menendian was talking about going into Eternal Weekend is that Landstill is always like a little more popular than maybe it deserves to be. And likewise, I think especially since it was the deck that won champs last year, it's got a lot of buzz to it. So I wasn't like surprised to see a lot of that. I mean, I think like Ben said, this turnout was pretty healthy in terms of balance. The only glaring problem I saw was, and it's not even really a problem, but it had a lower share of combo.
Yeah, there's no Oath here, there's no Storm here, there's no 2-card Monty, Belcher. There wasn't anything.
I think there might have been 1 Oath.
Oh, there is 1 Oath here.
There's like 1 Oath, 1 Dredge, and a couple other things, but I think it only came out to like 5 or 6 combo decks out of 24.
Dredge isn't a combo deck.
That's fair.
To be a combo deck, you have to be a Magic deck first.
25%. That's pretty reasonable for combo.
Does this Burn deck count as a combo deck? It just tries to count to 7.
That was sweet.
That guy was playing Modern Burn. He just showed up. It wasn't that I wanted to play, and he brought his Modern Burn deck. And
he's got Browbeat in there. That's not Modern Legal, is it?
Well, to take it a step further, it was Modern Budget Burn. He was Mike O'Malley's girlfriend's brother. He was just visiting for a few days, and he like plays casually, and Mike invited him to come along, and I was going to lend him my Merfolk deck that I'd proxied up because I figured that would be like an easy one to show up and kind of be able to at least play some Magic. And he was like, "Nope, I'm playing my Burn deck."
He's got 2 Boil and 3 Char, and he's registered his deck as Char Boiled.
Oh, that's so good.
3 cards. His sideboard is 3 cards: 1 Boil, 1 Blasphemous Act, and 1 Bearer of the Heavens.
Is he playing Exquisite Firecraft, or he's just playing Char?
He just has Char in his deck.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
I'm just reading the deck list. Of course, as always, all of our results are on LoneStarLhurgoyfs.com, and we've got all of the deck lists there. I thought about reading this energy deck, and the first card said Attune with Aether, and I said, I don't know what that does, and I closed the tab.
That card is a standard banned card.
Standard.
It's got a Chroma Angel of Furious in here. So
yeah, he played that. That's Joel. He played it at our last event too. I thought he was going to switch it up, but nope, he's just sticking with the energy thing.
It's fucking sweet.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to both him and to Brendan on Modern Budget Burn for not coming in last. Last place was Jack on Doomsday, who I think just went 0-2 drop. So that explains that. And Tim on Merfolk, but he was having a good time by the end of
drunkest.
the day. Yeah.
I think he won drunkest. So.
He was drinking from the chalice of the void.
Yeah, so no surprises there. But yeah, we were really happy, and to get some shout outs in here, I came in first and Ben came in second. So we represented it pretty well.
Thank God Ben didn't win another fucking vintage tournament.
I know.
I told all the Houston guys that this next vintage, everyone has to show up with real decks. We can't let Ben keep winning like this.
Yeah, and you need him to show up with a shitty deck.
Well, we were joking that we'd do something like all agree on a 75 and all of us would play the same 75 and just hope that like we'd all play the same 75 card Ravager Shops deck and just hope he didn't play Oath.
Yeah, I'd probably show up on Storm that day and go 0-4.
But yeah, so it was a successful run. I think we are planning to do our next vintage. Tentatively, we have it scheduled for February 24th, but tomorrow the three of us are meeting up to chat about dates and venues and get that confirmed. So we'll be announcing it soon. So keep an eye on all the like Goyf social media venues, and we'll probably be putting it on some various like Texas Facebook stuff. I'd also like, after we get one or two more tournaments under our belt, I think I want to have an episode where I talk with Patrick and Tweety about organizing this. So for listeners who are interested in that, you know.
So anyway, should we talk about Legacy?
Yeah.
I wanted to throw out, speaking of vintage tournament schedules, we have vintage coming up this weekend at Brash Brewing Company. It's our usual. Houston has switched up our schedule. Instead of being every other weekend, we are now the first and third Sundays of each month. That makes it a little easier to keep track of because you don't have to know when the last tournament was. Mm-hmm. And for people who work 7 on, 7 off, it makes it where you can come to some of them.
Yeah, I need to get out there. I need to get out there for it. I didn't play any Brash Vintage events for the whole last playmat cycle that you guys did, which was like, I was very flattered to be invited to the Goyf Invitational since I didn't compete for anything to do with it leading up to it.
Played at the charity event. That one counted on the map.
Oh, did it count? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, then I'm good now. I feel no shame anymore. But yeah, I would like to come out sometime in the next couple months to play in Houston. Is Asgard still doing their Legacy bigger event series?
I don't think so.
Don't want to talk about it.
I haven't heard about that.
They're barely running Legacy anymore.
Thursdays and Saturdays.
Well, on that note, I guess we can chat about Legacy. As Sam alluded to at the beginning of the call, it is kind of unfortunate that we settled on Lone Star Legacy as our podcast name.
No, we're just going to go with a different definition of the word legacy, as in we are leaving one.
Yeah.
Yes, but then we're like leaving a legacy, and that's our
because Lone Star is so much better than leaving.
That's true. That's true. But yeah, so what's going on in Legacy out there for you guys?
So I think I had mentioned this before. I had been getting kind of sick of just Magic in general recently, so I kind of resolved to not play Magic after Eternal Weekend. I still played Vintage because I run Vintage, and if I'm going to be there, I might as well play. So I haven't played very much Legacy since then. What I have done is have people hand me decks and just played those, or the other reason I haven't played is because college football is on Saturday, which is when we play Legacy. So I got kind of bored one day. I had woken up too early, and I said, I'm going to build Rug Delver. And I got about 90% through, just because that's all 4 of. It's really easy to pull out of a box. Got about 90% of the way through pulling that before I went, I sold my Lhurgoyfs.
Oh, no.
So I played a Rug Delver deck that was like, it was the standard list minus 4 Goyf, minus a Trop, plus an island, and then like I had 1 young Pyromancer. I had I think I had 1 of the Delve monkey that's like a 4/4.
Hooting Mandrills.
Yep. And then I had 1 True Name Nemesis and 1 Vindayan Click.
I mean, that seems reasonable. I also remember like some.
But I had a chart, of course, in there.
Oh yeah, that's ambitious. Do you guys remember, like, some months ago, people were advocating for not playing Goyf to begin with and playing either Deathrite or Hooting Mandrills?
There's a guy who's got a blog where he does a lot of analysis on Rug, and I had been following him for a while.
Alexander?
I don't know. He's got his own domain name, so he's not on all the forums. He just posts what he's doing. And he had a while where he was doing, it was like 2 Goyf main, 2 True Name main, 2 Goyf side, 2 True Name side.
I think that's reasonable. I mean, especially like if you were in a meta with a lot of check pile, Goyf looks pretty bad, whereas Hooting Mandrills looks pretty good.
I think Fatal Push has really pushed the format to avoiding just creatures that can be killed with a killed easily.
Unless they have some other value.
Yeah, so really getting to the creatures that avoid Fatal Push and Lightning Bolt and Swords to Plowshares, and just if it dies to any removal spell in the format, it's just not really that good anymore. But,
so I do want to say some other things that were in this deck. So in the version that I had done like a year ago, I just kind of copied a bunch of the same stuff. That deck had 1 winner or main 2 side.
Ooh,
that was back when Miracles was still around.
I love that,
and that's a must counter for Miracles. Instead of playing a Tarfire, it played a Seal of Fire. The idea being you can play Seal of Fire and just let it sit there as long as you want. You can be tapped out and still shock something.
Yeah.
It played like 1 G. It had a lot of really great stuff in it.
Yeah, no, that's sweet. That's sweet. Yeah, I don't know if you guys listen to the podcast Eternal Dirtles, but they've been like talking about Rug a lot lately, and I feel like in general, it's that's a deck that's like been just picking up a lot of steam. People seem interested in it.
It seems to be coming back a little bit. It was one of the best decks in the format for a long time, and it really fell off the face of the earth for a good year or so there, and it seems to be coming back a little.
I think that had to do with the fact that its entire deck was at 1 and counterbalance and top were legal.
Yeah.
Right.
Sean Liu over there was like talking about playing it since Infect has been having a bit of a rough go. Did he ever get that?
Yeah, doing that for a little while. Yeah.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing I've been playing is Chad, a guy I work with, was cleaning out his closet and he found his brother's 75 card Belcher deck from 2008.
Oh no! What's it different, or what's the difference?
It plays a Bayou.
All right.
And it plays 4 Dark Ritual.
That's pretty awesome, actually.
So far, that sounds just better.
We both agreed that like we didn't want to play that version. So he just like threw in some other cards. So like it's running 4 mana Morphos. The sideboard is the same sideboard he was running in 2008. Is just terrible. It's got 4 Darksteel Ingots in it.
Does Belcher not usually run mana Morphos?
It doesn't run 4 of them.
I think they try to avoid it just because
you generally like a lot of them are running like 2 mana Morphos and like 2 Street Wraith, because like every time I was casting it was to draw, and like sometimes I would cast it, draw, and then just take mana burn.
Yeah.
The problem I had with Street Wraith and mana Morphos, and also Probe for that matter, back when I played Belcher, was that they make your mulligan decisions really hard to evaluate, because like you'll have this 5-card hand, but like 1 to 2 cards in it. Not 5-card. You'll have a 7-card hand, but 1 to 2 of the cards you don't know what their effect is.
Don't know what card they are.
Yeah. So I think like they try to avoid it when they can. I feel like you have to play Probe, but I don't think you have to play mana Morphos.
Well, the Probe is also so key about knowing when you can go off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I had the last time I played it. I basically was playing it with 4 cards in the sideboard and just like ignoring the other cards. And those 4 cards were the fucking creature that when it attacks, they can't counter shit anymore.
Xantid Swarm.
I basically only had Xantid Swarm in the sideboard because Darksteel Ingot is not that good.
Darksteel, is that just the indestructible thing?
It's like 3 colorless. I believe it's indestructible and it taps for a colorless.
Yeah, what is that ever in there for?
The purpose of that.
I mean, I guess when you play Dark Rituals, you could go like Ritual, put this ingot out, and you played 2 lands, so it was pretty easy to get maybe 2 or 3 of them out for later.
So bad.
Yeah.
The last time I only played this deck 3 times, and I didn't make any changes to it. The last time I played it, I had a round go 12 minutes over time.
Oh no!
Because the store didn't call time, so we were just going. And my opponent had never played against Belcher before. And like I turn 1 land granted all 3 games. So all 3 games I'm essentially playing face up. So he has all the information, which makes making the decision perhaps a little harder just because you know exactly what all the lines are. And then I probed him also. So it was just like we were both playing heads up. We knew what each other had. And it was basically, can I either trick you into countering the wrong thing, or just have you not know that this works?
It just makes me hate Probe. I've been playing like Storm and Vintage lately, just in like testing games, and I just like hate that aspect of Probe where you find out exactly what's in store for you, and then you just like, if you're a shitty Storm player like me, you just hesitate and like.
Well, yeah, I like the way I think Steve had put it this way, and I know Sean had mentioned this as well, is that like it's not even the power as much as just the play pattern. Is that by having perfect information, that is very powerful, but it also just establishes this really boring like game set where, like, for example, with Belcher, I know they've got force. Like, I'm gonna just fake having critical mass, wait for them to force something, and then I'm gonna go off later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, and I feel like lately I've had some like minor rants about play patterns in the State of Legacy, but we'll avoid going down that road. But yeah, it's a lot less interesting in the game when there's no risks involved because you have perfect information.
Well, yeah, and I kind of felt bad for the guy who had never played against Belcher before, because like being able to have the hand and I don't know what he's got is such an advantage. And Probe, and like it was game 3, Probe, double force, double blue card. I'm like, okay, I basically just have to figure out a way to get you to counter things, which was Land Grant and Xantid Swarm.
I know that, Sam, before you entered this period of maybe needing a bit of a break from Legacy and Magic in general, you were playing some grindier stuff, right? Like you'd been doing Check Pile and New Miracles and stuff.
So I played Check Pile going into Eternal Weekend and at Eternal Weekend, basically because I believed it was the best deck. I did not enjoy playing it. I don't like what it says about the format, but I thought it was the best deck, and it was a deck that I could pilot reasonably well. I also like, I don't know how many of the stories I've told y'all, but like I basically gave up on the entire weekend about 20 minutes into round 1 of Vintage on Saturday or on Friday.
Yeah, I kind of got that vibe from you.
So like Saturday when Legacy happened, I went 0-4. My opponent didn't show up to round 5. And the judge comes by to tell me, hey, your opponent's not here. And I go, is there any way you can give me a loss so I can go 0-5 drop? The guy's like, no, you can't. I'm like, can you disqualify me? And he's like, no. I'm like, what if I call you an asshole? And like the guy, we were joking around. This was not me just being a dick to the guy. So I went 1-4 drop.
Well, I just bring it up to say that like there's for those of you who read the source, there's been some discussions lately about like Legacy and all that, and there's a number of people who, and I think this would be true regardless in the meta, but there's people who are a little burnt out of Magic right now. And one solution is to just take a break from playing. The other is, I think, to switch up your play style. And I was just going to ask, having come off from playing these grindy,
taking a break from the forums and stuff is much better than taking a break from playing, because I mean, for the last year or two, I've been almost exclusively playing bad decks that are fun, like 75 cards Ion.deck, and having a lot of fun. Just don't read the source, don't look at Twitter, don't think about like what is everyone else going to play. Just play something that's fun. And like I won money playing Bant Natural Order. It was, I think, 60 cards out of 75 identical to my deck from like the second deck I ever built in Legacy. Because let me tell you what, you take a Rock Monk, you put a Umazawa's Jite on it, and you use Elspeth Knight Errant's +1 on that, that's really hard to beat.
Well, on that note, I'll say that Blue Maverick decks are gaining traction right now, and they're also playing one of Rock's Warmonk in some lists.
Rock's Warmonk is so good. I played 4 of that in Legacy for a while, because like it's not that hard to cast in that deck. It's not boltable.
Rock's Warmonk.
Okay, Rock's Warmonk
costs colors for a 3/4 lifelink.
3/4 lifelink. And you're either running it. You're likely either running it in a deck that has Natural Order, which is less likely now because just putting a Progenitus into play isn't that great, or you're running it in a deck with Stoneforge Mystic, and you strap an equipment to that guy, and he is a must-kill.
Yeah.
I mean, you put a Batterskull on him.
Yeah. Double life.
7/8 lifelink.
On a only slightly less janky note, Ben, what are you playing now?
So I took the similar pattern of I need to get away from standard tier 1 legacy decks. And I've been playing mono black Pox for about a month now and just having an absolute blast with it. And actually doing well too. I've kind of come to the conclusion that it's a little underrated in the meta right now, and I think Pox is going to be coming back. It's good against a lot of the decks that are at the top of the meta game right now.
Well, you and I were talking this past weekend about it, and it sounds like there's been a relatively recent printing, like in the past year or so, that you think maybe actually boosted Pox's playability.
Yeah, that's Collective Brutality. Collective Brutality is amazing in Pox.
Is there a single mode on Collective Brutality that you don't at some point want to cast in that deck?
No. You're happy to draw it every single time you draw it.
So here's my disagreement for why Pox will not become a tier 1 deck.
I'm not saying tier 1. I'm not necessarily saying it's going to be.
Here's why I don't think it will become a competitor.
Okay.
All right. First reason is because of the significant lack of competitive events, people are less likely to develop. That is part of the reason that I think people are having less fun in Legacy now, is because there's fewer events, there's not as many possibilities to spur change. The other reasons are the Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale, the Abyss,
the cost
of Mephistopheles.
Yeah.
Yeah, but neither of those are like, they don't actually speak to the quality of Pox and why. But
it's one of those things where just looking at the number of people who, like, a deck is more likely to become a dominant force if more people play it. More people can't play the deck. It's just not as easily doable.
So I don't think any of those cards are critical to the deck, and I think that has a big impact on it. They do make the deck better, but I mean...
And you're playing with all of them, right, Ben?
I am playing with all of them. I have them all. You can play Pox at 95% without, your Tabernacles and Abysses and whatnot, and sometimes they're bad in certain matchups and whatnot.
I just think there are turn 1 kills in that deck with the black enchantments. That's the thing.
Turn 1.
Dark Ritual,
Dark Ritual, Nether Void against Storm is...
Dark Ritual, Nether Void against any deck when you have Sinkholes and Wastelands in your deck is generally a good game.
Well, when that's one of the problems is you power out a Ritual-fueled Nether Void, then...
You're not casting spells.
You might not outdraw them. You can't cast anything either. And yeah, you're made to play without casting spells more than they are, but I have actually lost after casting a turn 2 Nether Void because I didn't top deck lands and he did.
I'll also point out I prefer to play that deck in the format of you can't win I can't lose rather than you can win. And I'll do things like, Nether Void, Wasteland your Volcanic Island, Surgical Extracted.
Yeah. No, that's probably what you want to do.
One of my favorite questions I've ever asked an opponent is I Surgical Extracted his Volcanic Island and his Tropical Island. He was playing Internet Rug Delver. I said, would you like to concede? He goes, why would I concede? And I go, because I've Surgical Extracted all your color-producing lands. He goes, how do you know that? I'm like, well, I just went through your deck. That's the first thing. Also, you're playing like the same 58 as everyone else. And he thought about it for a minute and goes, okay, I'll concede.
Yeah, I actually won one game against that where I was playing Joe, he was playing Rip Helm, and he had Energy Field, Rest in Peace, and Leyline of Sanctity out. So usually my only way to remove an Energy Field or a Rest in Peace when he has the combo is to Ultimate Liliana of the Veil. But when he had the Leyline of Sanctity out, I couldn't even do that. But I managed to get a Nether Void and destroy enough of his lands where he had 2 mana sources left in his deck. He couldn't cast anything, and then we just counted cards in our deck. And
I was going to say, against a blue deck, you can frequently just, especially with a Nether Void start, you can frequently just do the, hey, would you like to spend 40 minutes drawing cards, or would you like to concede?
Well, it was game 2, and I'd taken game 1, and he's just like, yeah, I don't have any more outs.
That reminds me
of ignoring Sam's stance on why Pox might not ever actually become a real thing, Ben, do you want to, for a minute, tell us a bit about why you think the deck is good or why you're at least doing well with it?
So I think, like we were saying a little while ago that one of the focuses of the format right now is you have creatures that stick, like True Rand Nemesis or Nimble Mongoose, Hooting Mandrill, stuff like that can't just get blown up with a removal spell. Smallpox, Innocent Blood, Liliana of the Veil, they don't care about that. I actually played the matchup against Rungdelver. It was one of the most one-sided Legacy matchups I've ever played in my life. Absolute blowout. He just had absolutely no prayer. So I think it's good against that type of the type of creatures that are seeing play in the format right now. The other thing is collective brutality. I think has been huge, just because one of the drawbacks really of playing Pox is sometimes you get a hand with a couple innocent bloods in it, and you're playing against Storm, and you're just like, okay, what am I going to do? I'm not going to cast innocent blood against Storm. It's pointless.
You can get their goblins.
Yeah. Innocent blood away all 20 goblins. That's
innocent blood away enough that you survive, and then put a tabernacle into play. Yeah,
if you're playing combo, innocent blood, or collective brutality just becomes a duress. If you're playing against, a creature deck, it is a removal spell, and it can also remove a spell and duress if you want it to. And that last mode can actually be very relevant against decks like Burn, which historically were Pox's worst matchup was mono red Burn or something like blue red Delver that just is going to top deck enough direct damage spells to kill you. But when you can go, they play a Goblin Guide, and then on your turn you go, okay, I'm going to kill the Goblin Guide, take the Price of Progress out of your hand, and gain 2 life. It's just backbreaking for them.
Yeah. So you also have you mentioned specifically Burn and Blue Red Delver, and I think one of the big advantages that Pox has is that you have kind of 2 extremes right now, where you have these decks that play 28 colors, and they rely on Deathrite Shaman and fetches to fix their mana base, and you can take total advantage of that because you're playing 4 Sinkhole, 4 Wasteland,
right,
and a couple and 1 or 2 taxing effects. And then on the other side, you have a lot of times the decks that are looking to punish that are looking to punish it with Blood Moon, which just basically doesn't affect you.
Yeah, Blood Moon's not that big of an issue for me. It gets rid of Mistress Factory is one of the win cons. I also have a Tabernacle. It gets rid of that, but it's not a big deal. If you want a Blood Moon, we go ahead. So, yeah, I think Collective Brutality adds the flexibility to the deck where you're not as reliant on top decking the wrong half of your deck or the right half of your deck.
Well, especially because, a year ago, Pox was a Sensei's Divining top deck, right? And
right.
Was it ever a 4 Sensei's top deck, though?
I don't know.
I don't think I ever played more than 2.
Yeah.
You also run so many copies of the same spell that I don't know. It was never a thing that was important to me.
So Fatal Push is the other one that's been nice, just as take out their turn 1 Deathrite. Just, I mean, we all know what Fatal Push does, and that was a weird part of the deck. Is you have Innocent Blood, but Innocent Blood doesn't get to pick which creature it takes out. So Fatal Push can be a little better late. Like if they get a Pyromancer down and make a couple tokens, Innocent Blood's useless, but a Fatal Push right at the Pyromancer's head's nice. So I've cut down from your classic Pox list. I'm down to 2 Hymn to Torox. I'm down to 2 Innocent Bloods. I run 2 Fatal Pushes. I'm running a full 4 Collective Brutalities because it's probably the 2nd best card in the deck now, maybe 3rd.
How many small Pox?
4. That was one of the options.
How many Pox?
0 Pox. 0 big Pox.
Gotta run white border.
Yeah, I can go through my deck list if you guys want.
Yeah, run through it for us.
So here's what I've been running. Start with the lands. Looks like there are, I believe it's 10 swamps. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 swamps. That's, pretty standard. 4 Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth because black mana is just so critical to your deck and you have so many ways, like with Smallpox, you just, play your Tomb Through Smallpox, sack the Urborg, and then you can use it. 4 Mistress Factories, as that's one of your win cons. 4 Wastelands are kind of self-explanatory. And then I'm running 3 one-of lands. One of them's Cabal Pit, just another black source that can also double as a removal spell later. And remember, when you have an Urborg out, you can tap it as a swamp rather than tapping as
to ping.
Its mana ability, so it won't ping you. 1 Tabernacle is helps decks that go wide, and I have a single Maze of Ith, which just bailed me out big time last week. when a black-red reanimator deck reanimated a quick Sire of Insanity and made me discard my hand, and I top-decked Maze of Ith.
You're like, haha, my discard deck is better than yours.
Yeah, I ended up getting the game because I drew into more land and then drew a Innocent Blood, made him sack it, and eventually just got ahead.
Well, Maze of Ith, if you have an Urborg out too, is just like the best land ever printed.
Yeah. So normally Pox decks run 22 to 23 lands. I am running 25.
Whoa.
Because I don't count Tabernacle and Maze of Ith as mana-producing lands. And I kind of think of them just as utility lands. But then when you have an Urborg out, they do make mana, which just... The mana base feels really solid in the deck.
So you can add a Corma spell as your win con?
No, you definitely want a Japanese scroll rack.
Yeah. Yep, Japanese scroll rack would do it too.
So then I have 4 Dark Ritual. That's just to accelerate against the quicker decks. It often comes out against more grindy decks. 4 Liliana the Veil is kind of self-explanatory. This deck was made for Liliana the Veil. It's the best card in the deck. You always want to draw it. It's pretty much just amazing. 4 Smallpox, also kind of self-explanatory. Next one's 4 Inquisition of Kozilek. So there's kind of a debate between Inquisition and Thoughtseize. And I went with Inquisition because my theory is that there's very few cards that cost more than 3 that you care about.
Well, besides that, the ones that cost more than 3, you should be punishing their mana base by them.
Right. A lot of times they don't have the chance to cast it. So it sucks against things like Sneak Attack. Force of Will you don't care about. If they want to force something, that's usually to your benefit. Because give me a 2-for-1, go ahead. But you end up stabilizing at low life a lot. So I figured the life loss was, and I'm still not sure on that. I might switch those to Thoughtseizes or a mix of Thoughtseize. But next one's Collective Brutality, 4 of those. We kind of already talked about my opinion on that. Then I have 2 Hymn to Torox, where I'm actually not really missing the hymns down from 4. It's
okay, so important question. As you are not playing 4 Hymn to Turok, which 2 Hymn to Turok are you playing?
I am playing the Wolf Hymn to Turok and the Liz Danforth Hymn to Turok because I have a signed version of that.
Liz Danforth is the circle.
The 4 people dancing a circle, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of people for some reason don't like that one. Well, people have strong opinions about Hymn to Turok art in general.
The table one is definitely the worst.
Yeah, my favorite is actually the Quentin Hoover one because I pulled one out of my first booster pack I ever opened, like way back in like 95.
Which one's the Hoover one?
The guy in the robe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with Sam that the table is definitely the worst, but I've met multiple people who have told me it's the best, which is insane to me, but like...
The wolf one is the memeiest.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the best, but I feel like you got to have a wolf one.
The Liz Danforth one, I feel like, is the most, like...
Neutral. Everyone's kind of neutral on it.
Yeah, and
it also really fits the name of the card.
Yeah, they're actually having a hand. The wolf kind of is, too. But yeah, the old man in the robe is pretty sweet.
I'm running.
This is, by the way, I want to take a quick aside. The last time that we didn't do a set review, we talked about instead of doing a set review, just doing basic land power rankings for the new set.
Yeah, and if we wanted to, we could spend a minute when we're done talking about Rivals of Ixalan, but I like don't care about it at all.
Well, there's way too many people jerking that topic off to death.
Yeah.
And I'm out of lube, so.
Wait, have you guys heard about Blood Sun?
What? No. Sorry, continue, Ben.
So anyway, running 4 sinkholes. A lot of people have been cutting down on sinkholes, it seems like, but since I'm running Tabernacle, it lines up with sinkhole pretty well. So I'm running the full 4.
You also have the same sinkholes you used to play in middle school, so like, how can you not play them?
Yeah,
one of the few good excuses for running white border cards.
They are the only white border cards in the deck too. Then I'm running 2 Innocent Bloods. It's still a nice card in the deck, but I don't think it's as critical as it used to be. And 2 Fatal Pushes. Just the 2/2 split on those as the 1-mana removal spells, because Innocent Blood takes care of your stuff like True Names and what's it called? Mongooses, and Fatal Push takes care of, Delvers. And
it's also sweet against Show and Tell because you're just like, 1 mana, get rid of Emrakul.
Yeah, it gets rid of stuff like that too. Then I'm running 2 Curse Scrolls.
Oh, yeah.
Again, wait, hold on. I want to make another quick aside. The reason I said that you need Japanese Curse Scrolls, the Japanese ones are misprinted, so their activation cost is 1 less than it's supposed to be. That's why you want Japanese ones. I used to borrow this deck from Will, and he had Japanese ones, and I used to always play it and go, okay, so just so you know, this card is misprinted. Its actual activation cost is this. And people would reach across the table and untap my lands. I'm like, I guess, Judge?
Yeah.
My opponent is cheating for me?
So anyway, 2 Curse Scrolls. Curse Scrolls is just a wonderful card in the deck once you get going. I didn't want too many of them as they can be bad early when you're not, down to scroll mana yet, or down to scroll card count yet. So, but they're great finishers and they're great at dominating the board until you do finish.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3 1-ofs. There's Toxic Deluge, just as a nice Wrath effect. 1 Nether Spirit as both offensive and defensive.
So you are playing the Spirit. Yeah, I was going to ask for a summary of your win cons.
Yeah.
So,
sorry, Singleton what?
The Abyss is the last card in the main.
So you're not running all 3 Legends Enchantments main?
No, the other 2 are in the board.
I love running them all main. Even if Chains is bad against a lot of random decks.
Yeah, the Abyss is too, and so is Nether Void. They're all good against different stuff. My theory is the worst matchups for the deck tend to be things that go wide quickly. Though the biggest beating I took was a guy playing 4 main deck Lingering Souls. That you just
man, I haven't played 4 main deck Lingering Souls in so long. I haven't played 1 Lingering Souls in so long.
Lingering Souls is so good. Like, not to sidetrack us, but that's definitely a card that I should play more. Like, I want to play it in Maverick. It's like a terrible card when you have Athalia out, so I probably shouldn't play it. But like, it's just so strong.
You'll need to remind me sometime about the 4-color tokens deck I played for a little while.
All right.
We'll keep you updated on that.
So anyway, the rest of the sideboard, there's 1-ofs of, or this is not the rest of the sideboard. There's 1 of each of Chains and Nether Void. Nether Void's great against combo, obviously, and Chains is good against any blue deck, really, but it's not really critical against the blue decks. So then I'm running 2 of Sorcerer's Spyglass.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, debating between that and Pithing Needles, but the Spyglass
is better.
What does that most frequently name for you?
Jace the Mind Sculptor is a good one. Planeswalkers are tough to deal with for the deck. And then there's just some other activated abilities you really don't want to run into. And this is really the deck's best way to handle activated ability. Like Sneak Attack's a nice name. Or can't even think of anything else off the top of my head. And also it can pick off Death Rights if you don't have removal spells.
Mm-hmm.
The next one's Singleton and Snaring Bridge. Just good for those wide creature matchups. Then I have 2 Surgical Extractions and an Extirpate. Since combo is one of my worst matchups, especially really fast things like Reanimator, they're excellent against that, obviously. But also, since I have so much discard, it's sometimes nice, or it's good against general combo like Storm if you can just discard something and then Extirpate it.
Yeah, this weekend you and I were talking about how when Reed Duke did a video with Pox, this was back before the top ban, he had main deck Extirpate.
Yeah.
That's not something you're interested in?
No, I don't really see why it's in there. Reed Duke's probably right, and I'm probably wrong, let's be real. But so then I have 2 Dark Confidants just for the grindier matchups like Miracles. Especially they're in the board because a lot of people just board out their removal against you, and you bring in Confidants and just dominate, get ahead. But they're so bad against things that pressure the life total too that you really want them in the main.
I mean, your curve is relatively low though, right? Like you're not liable to flip something over 2 mana.
I'm very liable to go very long. But
that's
there's a
true.
lot of ways to get rid of it, like Innocent Blood.
Yeah.
Innocent Blood. Get rid of my own. That's.
So then I'm running 2 Knight of Souls Betrayal. That's just another nod to strategies that go wide. getting the best of you. And it's also really
God, I love that card's so awesome.
Yeah. You get one of those down against Death and Taxes, it's basically game over as well.
Oh, yeah.
Then I'm running a Damnation as a sweeper. One Liliana the Last Hope. That's another nod to going wide.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, can just kill things. The minus ability is obviously terrible. Putting creatures in your graveyard because I have one creature in the entire deck.
Yeah, that's why you can't main deck it, right?
Yeah. But then my other use for is I'll bring it in against something like Miracles, since they got to answer it. I've ultimated it several times against Miracles. And the last one's probably the worst card in the sideboard, which I'll probably cut as a Siphon Life. That's, if you don't know, it's 2 black and 1. Target player loses 2 life and retrace.
I strongly recommend
those burn.
I strongly recommend as your 15th sideboard card, the Will Pagani special Imp's Mischief.
What's Imp's?
What is that again?
It's like 2 and a black stifle.
Yeah, that would.
It's really funny against Miracles. Like they're ticking up. They're like ultimate counter that.
Change the target of target spell with a single target. You lose life equal to that spell's converted mana cost.
Oh, it's a misdirect?
You can't hit their abilities.
Oh, that's still quite funny.
Correcting a Jace ultimate? That would be beautiful.
Yeah, that would.
All right, so Stu, you have to go get a beer while I ask Ben a very important question.
Yeah, I want to hear the question, then I'm going to grab a beer.
Loam Pox.
Oh, yeah. All right, now I'm getting a beer.
All right, so we're playing 4 Loam.
Yeah.
We're playing 4 Raven's Crime. Playing 4 Crop Rotation. We're playing 1 Dark Depths, and we're playing 1 Thespian Stage.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Which I was talking about this the other day. The flavor of the Thespian Sage Dark Depths combo is that these actors put on such a great performance that they literally turned into a giant world-eating creature from below.
Yeah, they summon Cthulhu because they don't know that they've actually said Klaatu brought a Nikto.
They're so good at pretending to be Cthulhu that they turn into Cthulhu and destroy the opponent. That's one of my favorite bad flavor interactions in Magic.
Since Stu isn't here,
what did you bring to show and tell today, Johnny? Oh, all the knowledge in the entire universe, which I'm going to use to wish real hard for a swarm of ants that is going to slowly eat you alive.
I like it. I like it a lot. That's one of the reasons that the old show and tell art is so great.
Oh, the old show and tell art's wonderful.
Another thing I like about the old show and tell art is back then the QC wasn't that good. So I used to play Blue-Black Reanimator, which very commonly ran 2 show and tell side. And I had 2 dark show and tells main and 2 light show and tells side.
Oh, there you go.
So it was really easy to be like, oh, that one's not supposed to be in here.
Yeah. I should do that more. I'm terrible with. I'm a big fan of doing the 1 main 1 side on this card, and then I always forget what goes in the side, and I end up like digging through my deck for 20 minutes.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Arjun let me test one time, and I just lost on that.
Yeah,
it was
I
like
did that with my. Well, go ahead, Sam.
I had like Lethal Storm. I'm like, what's the demonic tutor that I Grim tutored, and there's just no win condition in the deck. Yeah, it was like Lethal Storm, exactly 7 mana, 3 for Grim Tutor. I lose. Stu, what have you been playing?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you guys, where I'm having a subcurrent of not like enjoying Legacy that much. Which I think is Sam kind of like hinted at this when we were talking about Eternal Weekend, but I think that correlates to the fact that I'm losing a lot. Since Eternal Weekend, I think I've cashed like maybe twice in weekly legacies, which is just like awful. I'm not like a competitive human, but I just like keep going in and losing. So that sucks.
Step 1, stop playing Maverick.
Yeah, well, I would agree with you, except I think Maverick is like definitely the best deck I play. So
You'll get better at Magic in general if you start playing other decks. That's totally the logic behind why I change decks every month.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'm gonna do is just like take a break from Legacy itself over the course of January. I haven't played much of it, and I think I'm just gonna play some Modern and Vintage.
You gonna come play Legacy in Houston at the Grand Prix?
This is frustrating. I don't think I'm going to. We're going to Denver this weekend. We leave like early Saturday morning and we get back Wednesday. So I think it's unlikely that I'm going to drive up there on Friday for
a bunch of
GP.
Bullshit. I already took Friday off, man. Come on. We can go.
We'll probably change it by Friday.
Get drunk and harass vendors.
I know.
Be respectful Magic players who can pass background checks and become judges.
The thing is, I was just like looking over all the like Magic events that are coming up, and basically I don't think I can go to almost any of them. So I might just like decide to go up to GP Houston this next weekend, just like because I'm not going to any big events for a long time.
Yeah. We're going to talk about GP Houston more in a little bit though. So let's put this talk off, even though I brought it up.
In Legacy, I've been rotating my 3 primary decks, which are Maverick, Mud, and Burn. And Maverick, it's a great deck. I think it's like very solidly a tier 2 deck right now, maybe even like tier 1.5, even though that distinction is meaningless. But the reason I haven't been enjoying Legacy is the whole like Deathrite infestation thing, which is starting to die down right now. I think that's less of a problem, but I haven't been enjoying the mid-range mirrors, so as a result, I'm not enjoying Maverick. Mud is like a blast. It's the most fun deck ever, but everyone in my meta knows how to play against Mud, so like I show up and I don't tend to beat them. So, you know, that's frustrating, but Mud's enjoyable. I've been like a late comer on Walking Ballista, but that card's insane. Everyone like knew it in Vintage right away, right? Like it's obviously awesome.
I mean, it is like at worst, it's a slightly worse than Triskelion.
Yeah, and at best, it's just completely insane.
Yeah,
Mud doesn't have the same style of fast mana that Shops does, because obviously, like Workshop and Moxen aren't a thing in Legacy, and you're more playing things like Metalworker and Cloud Posts, which are pretty fragile.
Yeah, well, I imagine the ability to Ballista or Walker for 1 is relevant sometimes.
It is relevant sometimes. The issue I've run into with Ballista locally is that I feel like there's a lot of X2s. Like Ballista against a Deathrite kind of sucks. Like it's fine, but you have to spend 4 mana to kill a Deathrite or 6.
You have to just like play it for 1 and hope they don't know that it can block.
Right. You know, it's just like, so it took me a while to realize that I appreciate it, but the past few times I've played Mud, at least once a match, if not more, there have been games where I'm just like, all I want on a top deck right now is Ballista. It's going to bail me out of this. Pretty solid. I have a ton of mana. If I get a Ballista, I'm going to win. It's the same as like Ugin in that regards. Like it's just a late game insane card that just can totally flip the board.
But it's also solid early game.
Exactly. It's just so flexible, which is, you know, for a long time I've said that Mud's weakness as a deck is that its mana base is like garbage, which makes it inconsistent. And I think that the thing the deck would need to become good is like either a new Soul Land or a new Cloud Post. But that's not going to happen.
Imagine either of those without a substantial.
Right. Well, I was going to say it's not going to happen. So what the deck needs then is other forms of consistency, and I think something like Ballista is actually amazing for the deck because
Candelabra of Thanos?
Well, that's when you're just becoming a post deck. But you know, Ballista is just like it's good at every stage of the game.
Yeah.
So like at least that is a form of consistency for Mud. It's still a really inconsistent deck, and I think it's bad in my meta. So, you know, it is what it is. I mean, the times I've cashed recently have been playing Burn. So I should, if I want to win, I guess I should just play Burn.
Yeah, Burn has good matchups against a lot of the top decks.
Well, if you can play Burn, you can play Belcher, because all you got to do is count to 7.
I've played both. I know what's up.
The top 3 decks on MTG Goldfish right now, I believe, are Grixis Delver, Check Pile, and Miracles, and they are all favorable matchups for Burn.
I mean, Ben, you and I have been saying to each other for a while, like even pre-Top Ban, that Burn is secretly like a very good deck in Legacy.
Yeah, it's solid.
Well, I suspect that's one of those things where people go, I don't want to play Burn. That's the deck you play when you're getting into the format. Like, regardless of how good it is, people have the association of this is not a good deck.
Yeah,
definitely agree. I think
playing Burn, they assume that you are a newbie and you don't really know what you're doing, and then when you play Burn well, they're like, "Oh, wait, like."
It's great when you see that, and it's like the guy playing Arabian Nights Mountains and Judge foil lightning bolts, and people are like, "Oh, that guy's on Burn. He must not be very good." Like, it's a $1,400 lightning bolt, dude.
That's Stu has a fully foiled out Burn. I like to call it Burn by choice.
Yeah, well, the other frustrating part about Burn is in this experience is based on me having played it at one SCG Open and also GP Vegas, is that even though I think the deck is good at big events, I feel like it's on people's radar.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you have a big Legacy event, you're going to have some number of Standard and Modern grinders come out to it, and some number of them are going to just put together Burn because they can.
Yeah, that's a card it's a deck that you want at least a couple of hate pieces. It's like Dredge and Vintage, where like if you're not flying into a Vintage event with at least 4 pieces of Dredge hate, you're just gambling. You're just hoping you don't hit it.
I was going to say 6, but
well, I mean more than that, but I mean at least 4.
Yeah,
it depends on the deck you're playing, but yeah. No, and I mean when at GP Vegas round 1, I got chilled, and it was just like, that's not a card that locally I ever have to worry about as my opponent playing chill, but at a big event, people are thinking about Burn. So it's an interesting situation for the deck. I would love to see some more skilled players pick it up and see what they can do with it. I do understand why for a lot of people it's not appealing, but I think it's a more interactive and interesting deck than it gets credit for, and I think it's definitely more powerful than it gets credit for.
It's also now a much more expensive deck than people think. Like, you've got Goblin Guides. A lot of people are playing fetches in it. The Eidolon is like 15 or something. Like, it is not a deck that, like, it used to be. It was you like mash 2 Fire and Lightning starters together, and that was it.
Yeah.
I think the Goblin Guide is now less expensive because of the Modern Masters printing, but Eidolon I think is going up, and like Lava Spike is weirdly an expensive card now.
A card that you probably have in a proxy deck somewhere.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm sure everyone has it sitting in the back of a box, but no one has them pulled out.
We recently gave away a prize at our Vintage that was Mox Sapphire written in Sharpie on a foil Zendikar bucket island. It's like a $60 proxy.
That's so awesome. Yes, that's been my Legacy life. I've been playing some Modern too. I think Modern's a great format. Like,
how do I kick you?
Well, let me finish my sentence. It's a great format if you play other formats too. I would lose my mind if I played only Modern all the time, but when I primarily play Legacy and I can hop into either Vintage or Modern, I have a fun time because they're like, to me, they seem like such higher variance formats, and like crazy stuff can happen in them. So when I'm tired of like Legacy and all the like minute interactions and like, oh, let me cantrip in response to your Deathrite activation, it's like fun to go play these other like wild formats. So
that's kind of where I get my fun with EDH. Is I know the local EDH group, and I know I want to play with you, and you. And we're going to just draw for 9 turns, and then we're all going to play things that cost 6 or more.
Yeah, well, I like that idea. I don't know any EDH players, and I feel like the downside of EDH as a format is that you have to have this like perfect social contract with people you're playing with, where you're all going to have the same power level and decide what's acceptable. If I had that, I would enjoy it. But
that's the thing that's really frustrating to me, because like I play Oloro, which doesn't matter what it does. Mostly people who are serious about EDH play it in combo decks. I play it in a life gain deck because Oloro, when it's in your command zone, gains you a life every upkeep.
Is that Oloro ageless aesthetic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of people will target me because they're like, oh, this guy's playing a combo deck. I'm like, no, I just want to do life gain. And I got to really do the, fuck yourself, dude, move. I played a 6-player game of EDH, which was a mistake. And I'm player number 6, and everyone goes, and player number 5 goes like Lotus Petal, Ancient Tomb, Show and Tell. And I am playing Aloro, which is a life gain deck. So I put in a card that is in my hand, Beladar Sovereign. Do you know what that card does?
Yeah.
Beladar Sovereign wins the game if you have 40 or more life. So I went untap, upkeep, I win the game, don't play Show and Tell.
I mean, it's funny because, like, I'll shit on people for playing Show and Tell and Legacy, but if you play that card in EDH, that's like, I'm impressed.
Yeah.
You are taking a gamble playing that card in EDH.
Well, and he was like really mad at me. He was like, "You're playing such a spiky deck." I'm like, dude, the average converted mana cost of all of these decks has got to be like 5 minimum. Like, what were you like hoping someone would put in like Inferno Titan?
Yeah.
Like, what's your best case scenario here?
So that's I think that's our life and legacy right now. I mean,
I do want to talk a little bit.
Oh,
sorry,
yeah, go ahead.
No, because I'm going to go off on a long rant.
Rant is good. Go for it.
So we originally, when we talked about this, we set this up as what are you playing right now? So I had also prepared to talk about what I was playing in Vintage because, as I said, I was taking a break from all of Magic. But since I run our Vintage, I have to be there, so I might as well play, right? So my plan was to just solicit deck ideas, and I would build them, and then I would play them, which didn't end up happening because, you know, cutting proxies out every Saturday night is not a great feeling. So I ended up playing 2-card Monty for a couple weeks. I played 5-color Shops for several weeks. 5-color Shops was the second constructed Magic deck I ever built. It was I experienced my first standard rotation, and I said, this is stupid. And I started building 5-color Shops because back then, even at GPs, you could play proxy Vintage. You could play like 15 proxy Vintage. So I built 5-color Shops. I just pulled up my deck list from 10 years ago, made a few tweaks, and went back and played it. Deck is so much fun. And you play all 5 colors main. So with white, you play a main deck Balance. With blue, you're playing Recall, you're playing Time Walk, you're playing Tinker. By the way, you don't get Blightsteel. That card sucks. You get Sundering Titan.
Oh yeah.
Which, when we get to red, we'll talk about why Sundering Titan is great. So we're at WU. In black, you play Demonic Tutor and Vampiric Tutor. You can also play like Duress in your sideboard. You can play Engineered Plague in your sideboard. In red, you play Goblin Welder. So there are 2 interactions of Goblin Welder or 3 interactions that are really important. The first is you can just take Sundering Titan in and out and make it so that they never have lands of any basic land type. The second is that you can weld in and out smokestacks and tangle wires and stuff to keep them at maximum number. You can also weld them in so that your smokestack doesn't hurt you as much. And the third and the most fun one that I didn't realize until I did it to someone, and when he realized what it did, he was very unhappy with me, is if you destroy a walking ballista, Goblin Welder reads tap, destroy target artifact and opponent controls.
Yep. Just weld the ballista in and it just dies.
And it just dies. So that's super fun. And then you also play a Barbering, which you can get back. You play like 3 Crucible Worlds, so you can Barbering them out if you want to. And then in green, I played 1 of Crop Rotation.
Wait, I can think of one other super important welder interaction.
I mean, there's a ton of them. The whole deck really revolves around Welder.
I was just going to say Trike.
Trike is really important, and that's one of the things that's really cool is a couple people go, why are you playing Trike instead of Walking Ballista? And I'm like, shoot you for 3, weld it out, weld it in, shoot you for 3.
Yeah, it's so much better.
And I had a game against Ben where it was like he was bargaining, and then he looked at the table and realized, he's like, oh shit, that Trike at 3 is actually 7 damage, not 3 damage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you played that deck at the Goyf Invitational and just totally stomped me. I didn't stand a chance in that matchup.
So I think my favorite interaction in the deck is Workshop, tap for 3. Emerald, Crop Rotate away Workshop, play another workshop, and then go like Trinisphere Sphere or something like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the classic when you have a Crucible out, you tap your workshop, wasteland it, replay it, tap it, and cast a worm coil engine.
I had some other really great shenanigans. Like a couple weeks ago, someone fought me over a balance, and like it ended up being, I can't remember. Oh no, that was in a different deck. Never mind. Doesn't matter.
Oh, is that when me had that
Sweet.
crazy stack going over the balance?
Yeah, and then the last deck I played Myth Realized Landstill, which is not Landstill, it plays No Man Lands. And that was really fun. And the funniest thing I did, well, one of the funny things I did there was balance, and then get in a fight over balance, so that when balance resolved, they had no cards in my hand. So when I cast balance, my opponent ended up going up to 9 cards and then down to 0.
Oof.
Ooh, what they ancestral in response to dig?
I think they gushed and ancestral.
Oh, brutal.
You have like some sweet foil Russian.
I have one foil Russian Myth Realized. That was one of those cards that's no one had any idea what it was worth, and I was like, "I'll buy you a beer," and Elijah was like, "Okay."
I'm fine with taking advantage of Elijah.
And my coolest play was round 1 last week. Week before last, I played against Landstill, and the guy goes standstill on turn like 3 or 4, and I go response Notion Thief.
Oh, wonderful.
And he goes, and like he thinks about it, thinking, oh, okay. And then I draw for the turn, and I go, stand still. And he's like, trigger. I'm like, cool, I'll draw 3. And he's like, oh shit, can I respond to the trigger? I'm like, yeah, man, no worries. And he goes, I'll swords your Notion Thief. I'm like, cool, your standstill triggers, I'll draw 3.
Oh god.
And what my plan was is I was going to go standstill, draw 3. Top, draw 3. So we were talking about it later, and was like, I think plowing the Notion Thief is still right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
just because it's still threatening. I also did not realize until Sean O'Brien pointed out later that I played Mana Crypt in that deck, which he said was an example of the most no fucks given he's ever seen in a deck list.
Deck, yeah, that's pretty.
Oh yeah, I broke my own standstill to get rid of that Mana Crypt more than once.
Yeah, definitely brave.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, I feel like,
all over the map.
I feel like these weekly and bi-weekly or whatever vintage events are a little more forgiving with playing things like that too than Legacy is. Like, I mean, I think you could show up with your Myth Realized deck at Legacy if you want to, but vintage,
I have.
Like, but like people are super down for that in vintage, and like it's encouraged to play that more.
Well, we also, and we've talked about this in the past, I think we talked about it when we talked about setting up our tournament series, is that by holding these events fairly often, especially for a format that doesn't see a lot of events, it encourages people to tinker around. So like, how many times have you heard this? I killed Ben's Chandra Torch of Defiance with my Myth Realized in vintage.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, you know, I didn't do well. No worries. You know, I'll be playing again in a couple of weeks. And in a lot of places in the world, you know, you're lucky if you have one a month.
Right.
But realistically, you probably play vintage when you travel and no other times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm feeling good since I won our most recent vintage thing, or our first vintage thing. I feel like all the pressure's off, and now I can just play whatever I want for all subsequent events, which...
Yeah, until you get to the event, and then you're like, shit, I really want to repeat, and then pressure is even higher.
I know. That almost happened in this first one. I was, for like a month leading into it, I was like, I'm just going to play Bargain Storm and have a good time. And a week before, I was like testing it, and I was just like, I'm terrible at this deck, and I'm just going to lose the entire time if I play it. And then I switched to White Eldrazi.
So one thing I like about playing the fast decks at an event you run is that you get to talk to people, which is fun, and you get to take a lot more pictures.
Yeah. So White Eldrazi, I mean, both of those decks are pretty fast, but White Eldrazi I think is fast, but Vintage itself is such a fast format that it was like I'd be in the middle of game 1 or game 2, and I'd have people coming over to give me match results, and it's like, that's what happens when there's like turn 1 kills in the format and stuff, which apologies to anyone if I was curt with you while I was playing my match and you tried to give me your match result. I don't mean to be a dick.
Yeah. So I've got a suggestion for a deck for you. Paradoxical Oath. A couple reasons. One, it's Paradoxical Storm on training wheels. That is what one of the quiet speculation guys, I tweeted, what deck should I play? And he tweeted Paradoxical Storm or Paradoxical Oath is Paradoxical Storm on training wheels. So like, sounds great. You can go off as fast or as slow as you want. Like you can just do the thing where you like generate a ton of mana, I have lethal in hand, keep going. You can also, one of the coolest interactions I've done, well, not even a card interaction, it's a interaction with your opponent, is like game one, you can just like Oath into Grizzlebrand and just swing 3 times. And like a lot of times, it'll just be, like if they even notice, they'll be like, oh, Paradoxical Outcome, like it's a good card advantage spell. And then they'll side for Oath, and you're just like Paradoxical you out, and vice versa.
Yeah.
It also allows you to do things like Paradoxical Tendrils for 10, Time Walk, swing 7.
I mean, that's basically just the vintage equivalent of Tin Fins, right? Like you're just mashing up Storm and a Grizzlebrand deck.
Oh no, I would say because there's an older style Oath deck that was like it was like Grizzlebrand and Perfect Storm put together.
Mm.
Yeah, had Burning Wishes, Burning Oath. There.
Yeah, Pitch Burning Long, I want to say is the name of the deck.
Yeah,
rolls off the tongue.
Well, you played 4 Burning Wish so that you wouldn't flip your Tendrils of Agony.
Ben, what are you playing in vintage now?
I played Ravager Shops at the event last weekend. That was Ravager Shops, one of my favorite decks. I hadn't played it in a while, and not that I thought something was going to get banned, but I was worried that something may get restricted from Shops. So I was like, I should probably give it one last hurrah before. Yes, and I'm glad they decided to refrain from hitting anything in it.
Yeah, it seems like everything's like fine now. So
that's also part of the reason I played Czech at Eternal Weekend was let's get these double signed Steve Argyle Deathrite Shamans last hurrah.
Yeah. I was buying into Noble Hierarchs over the past few months in case Deathrite got banned, and then it didn't. Now I just have Noble Hierarchs, but
that's not a bad card to have.
No,
I think we should also real quick talk. The recent ban list has no effect on formats that we care about, but they did because they don't really announce what their cadence will be. The announcement was Monday, so that's 2 days. So that's the 15th, and the next BNR update is February 12th, less than a month.
Yeah, it's supposed to be right after Pro Tour Rivals Ixalan, right? Is the plan.
Some people have taken to mean it will be like this is a ban targeted at Modern, but it's worth being on your radar that we're going to have a BNR update 1 month after the current BNR update. So,
well, people are speculating an unban in Modern, which seems reasonable.
Cool.
Yeah, I think Modern is just wonderful right now, and they shouldn't touch it. But a lot of people actually hate Modern. It's kind of a,
and I feel like for PR reasons, it's just like Wizards has had to do all these standard bannings over the past year. I feel like if they can,
well, they also made a statement about how like we realized we were wrong and you shouldn't like do a ban for a shakeup right before a PT. So it may be like it's totally possible they have a ban in the chamber that they're just waiting for the PT to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also possible that they don't. And it's also possible that the whole thing is like a charade to be like, hey, we know you're complaining, but just wait till after the PT, and then they don't do anything because, whatever. You're not a shareholder.
But I think that the 2 formats, Legacy and Vintage, that this podcast is primarily concerned with, I think neither of those are going to see any bans, or restrictions. Like, Vintage is like kind of sorted itself out, and
yeah, it's been getting healthier anyway.
And Legacy is basically doing the same thing.
Vintage kind of suffers from the thing I said earlier, where there's not very many events. So like it becoming very inbred or some other negative adjective kind of gets undone when you finally have a large event that everyone sees.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, getting back to Ben, so you played Ravager Shops.
Yeah, the week before that I won our little our Brash Vintage event with Rug Planeswalkers or Keeper or whatever you want to call it. It was The main deck was very close to the one Rich Shea won a vintage challenge with, and looked like a blast. I swapped something out for an Abrade, which I think Abrade's a wonderful card, and then tweak the sideboard heavily for our meta, just since I didn't expect to see Dredge and a few other little changes. But yeah, that is a very fun deck. It has more card selection than I've ever seen in a deck. It's ridiculous.
Chandra Torch of Defiance, man. That card is just...
Yeah.
I love it.
There was one... And I have a challenge for you.
Sure.
My challenge is I want you this weekend to play Freyalaise.
What is that?
It's a Planeswalker. And I'm going to make all of us Google it.
What set was she in? She's like original.
It might be like a commander card.
Right.
What the hell? Ooh,
it's taking me multiple Googles to find it. Freyalaise was originally printed in Commander 2014. 3 green comes in with 3 loyalty counters. +2, put a 1/1 green elf druid token onto the battlefield with tap, add green to your mana pool. -2, destroy target artifact or enchantment. -6, draw a card for each green creature you control. Freyalaise Llanowar's Fury can be your commander.
I didn't even know that was a card.
Yeah, I like the patch eye.
Yeah.
Her name also sounds like Frito Lay's. So that's good.
So they're very popular in North Texas.
One of the cool things about that Planeswalker deck is I had one turn where, okay, upkeep, search for Azcanta, look at the top card of the deck, bin it, trigger Sylvan Library, take 2 extra cards, tap my Library of Alexandria to draw, plus the DAC to loot 2, then the Mind Sculptor brainstormed, and then activated Chandra to flip the top card, and then used the dig ability on search for Azcanta. And my opponent was like, have you seen like 20 cards this turn?
I think that was me. I was like, let's count them up.
Yeah. Yeah, it was ridiculous. You just dig through the deck. So it feels very similar to like those keeper decks where you have just answers for everything in the deck, but only a couple copies. And just so many cards that you find the right answers for things.
Well, it's interesting. Search is just really in every format now. Like,
yeah, it's a good
it's
card.
been a huge boon to Legacy Miracles. It's the modern blue control decks are playing it, and the fact that it can break into Vintage is just, it's nuts.
Yeah, it's a good card. It's here to stay, I think. I enjoy it.
I would say if you like a deck like that where you see like 20 fucking cards a turn, New Miracles that's the thing I enjoy about it is, in a single game with a 60 card deck, you see about 400 cards.
Yeah.
It's so insane. Yeah. I mean, it's a difficult balance to strike because the common criticism is that deck can seem like it's just a lot of air, but if you know what you're doing with all the card selection,
I feel like that criticism goes away when you know how to play.
Yeah.
Not to say that I'm really good, but like a port doesn't take me more than a second or two.
Yeah.
And it's just like predict target you naming this because I already know what's on top. And they're like, how do you know it's on top? I'm like, shut up and flip the card. I gotta go. I have so many cards to play this turn.
Yeah.
Like I did the math one time and it was like for 5 mana, I drew 12 cards in one turn.
Yeah, I mean it's totally insane. And I mean it's interesting in the Vintage event that we did here in Austin last weekend, one of our top 4 was this like Rug White somewhat control deck, which is like
it was registered as Rug White Pile.
Yeah, I added the pile component because I felt like Rug White just didn't really say anything, but I mean it's not the same thing as what you were playing, Ben, the Rich Shea Walker's list, but like still it's cool to see that a deck of this general style that just can grind out card advantage and play this control.
I'm just gonna read down a list real quick. Not even all the cards. 1 Jace Vince Prodigy, 1 Termaglyph, 1 Trigon Predator, 2 Pyromancer, 2 Snapcaster, 2 Jace the Mind Sculptor, 2 Dak Faden. Scrolling down a bit, like 1 Probe, 4 Preordain, 2 Pyroblast Main. I think this is Ponder, but it looks like it says Bladder. 3 bolt, 3 bolt, 1 swords, 1 merchant scroll. I don't see a monastery mentor in here.
Yeah, I don't think he had white.
I think the white, he has white just for swords to plowshares, and it's just a 1 of,
and for 2 containment priests and a sword sideboard
in the board. Yeah,
seems pretty low opportunity cost to slam a mentor in there.
Right.
Also no pearl.
Yeah,
that's Ian. He's a local legacy player. He's a very good Maverick player. Which
this looks just like Maverick.
Well, it's cool. Like, I don't know. I love seeing legacy players come out for Vintage just to see what interests them in the format. And like seeing this list, it's not at all surprising to me that Ian would want to play this.
Fair enough.
Well, I also like this is the kind of deck you don't generally see out of people who are playing Vintage for the first time. You generally see like TPS, workshops, you see broken shit because you don't get to do broken shit very often.
Right. Yeah, if you wanted to play Snapcaster mages and stuff like that, just like
Snapcaster. Well, like he has multiple cards that are banned in Legacy here, including such all-stars as Khans of Tarkir Common Treasure Cruise.
Yeah. But yeah, if you want to bolt, snap, bolt, go play Modern. Don't play Vintage.
Mercadian Masks Common Gush.
Love it.
Alpha Common Lightning Bolt.
Yeah. So, yeah, what else we got?
GP Houston?
Yeah, I think that's it. So that is the 28th. It's the last
weekend of January. It's not this weekend, but the next weekend.
I think it's the 26th. It's my girlfriend's birthday. So
26th, 27th, 28th.
26th, 27th, 28th.
Well, that's perfect. She can let the dogs out while we all go party.
She's working.
Oh,
that means I can go to my birthday like Magic.
So I'm going to do a quick overview of the stuff that matters to us, and then we can all talk about the plans. First, all side events are 3 rounds. They've done this presumably because so many people were going 3-0-1. So let's just cut off the last round. Good for people who want to play a lot of sides. Bad for people like me who just want to play as much Magic as possible.
Yeah.
There's Legacy every day. I believe there's Old School. Ben, I rely on you to know that information.
Well, the main
is Old School or Vintage scheduled.
That was my next thing.
The main format is limited, right?
Yes, the main event is limited. The playmat sucks. It's at the. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Some standard card, probably.
So one of us, I'm not sure who it was, actually contacted CFB about Vintage and said, "Hey, we have enough people. We'll fire Vintage." And their response was, "Well, when you get 8, we can fire an instant Vintage." So there is no scheduled Vintage. So when we get off this call, I'm going to be posting on the website and the Mana Train, like, hey, let's all try and find a time that works for everyone so we can so we don't do the thing where everyone's sitting around going, hey, is it time for Vintage? Is it time for, let's try and find a time when we can all show up.
Let's say X time on Friday and X time on Saturday.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna
that's sanctioned, right? That would be sanctioned.
That would be sanctioned. Yeah. We've talked about it, and I believe we can get 6 people fully sanctioned just from our group of people. So if you're going to be at GP Houston and you're interested in Vintage, there's a high chance that we'll be firing it. Also,
that's good to know. There's probably at least 8 or 9 people who could play sanctioned Vintage in Austin. I have no idea if they're going to show
up. I know
up.
DFW's got a few that play it too. It'll probably be coming out.
I think San Antonio.
Stu, if you could post that in the appropriate places for Austin. And let them
I'm
know.
not on Facebook, but I'll ask some people to post it.
I'll also unofficially, for no money, for funsies, probably be like, hey, we're over at table 1337. If y'all want to play Vintage, we're not running a tournament, but I have a pairings generator on my laptop.
Yeah.
Will was also talking about bringing his cube, so we'll probably get that going at some point. The event is downtown. There's nothing good nearby, but all the cool areas are 2 miles away. So Friday, I'm taking a half day. I'll be at the venue Friday afternoon. I was thinking,
I will too.
I was thinking if anyone wants to post party, this one is very much based on what people want to do. But Friday, because I've never done it, 80s night at Numbers.
I don't know what that means.
I don't either.
Numbers is the shittiest nightclub in Houston. It's the kind of place where you might have a 16-year-old girl flirting with a 60-year-old man.
That
and
does not sound
that
like
would be totally normal because that is a realistic age
That's
range.
exactly the opposite of a Magic tournament.
It's $1.50 wells. That's not a sale. Normal price $1.50 wells. I don't know if that will happen. I suspect it will end up being Hay Merchant, which is craft beer for those not from Houston. Then Saturday, weather permitting, which basically means as long as it's not raining. I'm thinking Moon Tower, which is about 2 miles from the venue. Their specialty is they do wild game hot dogs, like duck and rabbit hot dogs, like $8 a hot dog, which is, I think, pretty good. And craft beer, it's really close by. It's probably going to be like a $5 Uber. So that's what I was thinking. We'd try and get some people together Saturday night.
That was good. We went there like sometime this past year when I was in Houston, and yeah, those hot dogs were awesome.
I think we did it after a legacy event, a big legacy event at Asgard. I think that was also way more than a year ago.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
But yeah, we're going to be getting people together. Follow the Goyf account is Texas Lhurgoyfs. Probably also a good idea to just follow me. I'm the Craven one, and I will be tweeting way more things about trying to hang out with people.
Are either of you guys playing the main event?
I am playing the main event. Yep.
You are? Okay.
You need Planeswalker points, right, Ben?
The what?
You need Planeswalker points, right?
I don't really care that much, but I don't know. I enjoy playing sealed every once in a while, and I just did the Rivals pre-release, and
yeah, you said it was good, right?
Yeah, it's just there's so many bombs in the set that
I might try and do a sealed side, but I just have a hard time paying $75 for 6 packs.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Oh, by the way, you should get the add-on for the playmat and then give it to me, so I only have to pay $15 for a playmat instead of like $40.
Oh, if you want it, yeah, I did not get the add-on for playmat. So if you,
I'll be doing my usual thing where come up to me and sign my playmat, and it will go on this wall that if you are watching this on YouTube, you can see.
Yeah, remind me about that later. I can pick up the playmat for you. So yeah, Tim and I did the Two-Headed Giant pre-release, and we had a blast doing it. So we also opened a really good pool, which helped a lot. So
yeah, I haven't played a Two-Headed Giant event like basically ever, and I feel like I need to do it. It seems like so much fun. Yeah, it's the same reason that like the Team Unified and Team Trios seems awesome for the same reason. So.
Yeah, we both opened a Tetsamok, which is the best limited card in the set.
Is that a dinosaur?
That's the black dinosaur that puts prey counters on creatures, and then when it comes in, it destroys them all.
Oh no!
I mean, if you both opened a legend, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's only a rare. It's not a mythic, but we so Tim just had like a big mono black or black white, like just his entire deck was removal and Tetsamoks basically. And we just stayed alive until we could blow up the whole board and beat him down with a 6/6.
That's what my Iconic Masters draft deck was.
Yeah.
There's not going to be another pre-release until Dominaria, right?
Yep.
That's correct.
I'll definitely draft that. I really hope that's a good set.
I have low expectations, but I might still.
Richard Garfield was on the design. The last time he was on design
was Innistrad.
Yeah.
On the subject of how awesome Two-Headed Giant is, one of the perks, perhaps, of running on the first and third weekend, as we are, is that occasionally we will have a blank weekend in the rotation. We'll have Sunday number 5. And we've been talking about just doing random cool stuff there, maybe Cube. If we can get enough people, like a Team Unified event would be cool, or a Two-Headed Giant Vintage would be fucking insanity.
Two-Headed Giant Vintage would be fun.
Unified Two-Headed Giant Vintage.
Oh, jeez. Huh.
Only one of each restricted card between the two of you.
Or do what's it called?
Oh, by the way, your spheres affect your teammate.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. No, that'd be fun. I would do that.
The problem with that is like we need twice as many people as or we're playing 3 rounds of round robin.
Yeah. 3 rounds of round robin's not a bad idea. I think our first 3 for month is it March or April? I can't remember.
I believe it's March, and yeah, as I said, part of the advantage there is for people who work 7 on 7 off, we will effectively flip which 7 we are on.
Yeah. So April 29th is the first time we'll have 3. We'll have a third Sunday. So yeah, we'll figure something out for that.
Well, that'll be perfect too, because that'll have GP Seattle in the rotation.
Yeah.
Are you
GP Seattle artist list is sweet.
The what?
Are you
GB
guys
Seattle artist list is sweet.
Oh yeah. So one of the signature brokers on that does that's an agent for artists said that he's going to get one booth and just have like rotating artists because some artists don't want to sit there all weekend. Just be like, oh yeah, this guy will be here on
I like
Saturday
that because I know there are some artists in the Seattle area who don't like signing and don't like being at Magic events.
Right.
Maybe they'll be there for an hour or two.
Yeah.
I'm still not sure if I'm going to play the main event.
Yeah, I'll play the main event, but yeah, if you're not playing the main event, you might have to grab some signatures for me.
Is there like a big collective of Houston guys going to that?
I think so. Well, part of the reason that I think we're gonna have a bigger group than usual. For one, it's like free to get to Seattle. Like, it's under $300 round trip from Houston.
Yeah.
The other reason is Will Pagani, who is the founder of Asgard Games, which is the store that the entire Houston group plays at, lives in Seattle, so a lot of people want to go see him. It's also in Seattle, which has a lot of other meanings. Like, I personally think that there is a very strong chance that there will be a lot of other things announced about this much closer to time that will make you want to go, where it'll be more like a convention than a GP. And that's part of a whole... I have written 2,000 words about this in a blog post I haven't published yet because I have a whole rant about GPs and conventions.
Yeah, I don't know. Right now, I'm saying that I'm not going to Seattle. I should probably go. I'll probably have a lot of FOMO if I don't show up, but like...
It's also, like I said, so I don't know what flights are from Austin, but Austin's not that far from Houston, and they're really cheap from Houston.
They're like $350 plus from here.
And
I was looking at flights today.
Joanne got a hotel super cheap, so I would guess that you can still get a hotel with a good deal. There's also a really vibrant community up there, so like if worst comes to worst, it's probably not going to be that hard to find a couch.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Airbnb has been awesome for any events that I've gone to recently, so I'll probably do something with that. I don't know. I should look at my travel budget and see if I can make it out, because it would be fun to play a Legacy GP again.
I'm going to go up there. I'm going to spend like almost a whole week up there. I don't know if I'm going to be in Seattle the whole time, but if anyone in the Seattle area wants to show me around or do something, I want to turn it into a full vacation and not just to get back Sunday at 5 fucking exhausted.
Ben, you were talking about going to Portland while you're there, right?
I don't know about Portland, but my girlfriend might come up and we'll see Seattle and whatnot.
Yeah, that was another reason a lot of people from Houston were talking about going is with the GP ending on Saturday, a lot of people were talking about having their significant others come up Saturday and get like half of Saturday and all of Sunday.
Yeah.
That's how Vegas ended up working out, and it was great. We finished the GP, and like my wife and Patrick's wife and a bunch of our friends came out, and we just like spent the weekend doing Vegas stuff. It was awesome.
It's also, for me, that part of the world is much smaller than Texas. So like I was looking at it and was like, oh, I'll just drive down to Portland. Someone was like, do you know how far that drive is? Like, do you know how big Texas is?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or like, and you're just so much closer to everything. Like I was thinking about like just using that as a jumping off point to see a bunch of other stuff on the West Coast. Cause it's like, I'll go to San Francisco. Someone's like, that's an 11-hour drive. I'm like, yeah, but it's not that long of a flight compared to if I flew from home.
Yeah.
Right.
Texas is so stupid.
Whoa. Whoa. I abided you saying that Modern was good.
this is when
you are on strike too, sir.
Oh yeah. All right, I'll play it safe for the rest of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys? I mean, obviously, it's like months out, and it's stupid to ask this, but if GP Seattle were tomorrow, what would you play?
Sneak and show.
Yeah, I knew that was
big tournaments. Yeah.
The Tin Fins private chat has a fucking spicy brew that I think like 4 or 5 of us have committed to play whatever the final group deck is.
Which Magus is it that it's playing?
Maybe you don't. Well, the main one is
top secret tech.
Magus of the Mine is the 6 mana, and then blue and tap Mind's Desire.
Yeah.
You can also potentially. I don't think this is in our current build. Magus of the Will. I don't know what it costs, but it's Yawgmoth's Will. And so we have a separate deck that I have called Magus the Gathering, where you play like 8 Maguses, and you're just like Storm for 4, activate Magus of the Will, Storm a little bit more, activate Mind's Desire Magus.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
Well, the key interaction there is Shallow Grave into Magus of the Mind,
We also in that version of that deck plays no Goryo's Vengeance. You play really? Corpse Dance at 3 mana instead. Because Goryo's only gets Legends. Alternatively, I would play Miracles because Miracles plays very much the style of Magic I like to play.
Yeah, but
why not?
Sorry, you were cutting out. What'd you say? He's gone Terminator on us.
And now
oh yeah.
Ben, you died.
Quality cast. People should subscribe to our podcast. Yeah, I mean, I think playing 9 to 15 rounds of Magic, though, it makes more sense to play something like 10 Vids instead of Miracles. Like, unless you're just trying to spike the tournament.
Well, as I always used to say with Miracles, a huge advantage you can give yourself with old Miracles is an advantage all of us have, which is having friends. Just because it's people who can have dropped and can stand at your spot and go, he just ran to the bathroom, or people who can go get you food or whatever else. That is very helpful. Yeah. Also, if you play the Mentor build of Miracles, that deck's not that slow.
That's true. That's true. I mean, yeah, play it competently and it's not that bad, I guess. But it's still like you're going to spend more time playing it than you would playing 10 Fins.
I also have a brew I've been working on, which is, someone's going to like be the only person in the comments to tell me this isn't a brew. It's what everyone on the source has been talking about for like 6 months. But I have a blue-red Delver deck in my head that I want to try out. But I just can't abide the fact that, is it Search the City or that's 2 mana, draw 2 if you attack this turn or something?
Chart a Course.
Chart a Course. Plays Chart a Course and a bunch of other garbage, but I can't abide the fact that my LGS wants 25 cents for Chart a Course, so I haven't bought them to try this deck out yet.
How are you going to be upset about 25 cents? That is the bare minimum. A card
because the first 2 of them, because that card is what's an uncommon, right?
I think it's a common.
The first 2 of them that I got, I just walked up to the guy at the game store and said, hey, do you have any Chart a Course? And he just handed me one and said, I'll keep an eye out. And I walked in like 2 days later. He's like, here's another Chart a Course. I'm like, I'm almost there.
So you're really down to 12.5 cents per Chart a Course.
You know what? They're like 9 cents on TCG Player before shipping.
Convenience, man. Convenience.
Yeah, I think the Chart a Course Delver decks are like, people keep trying them and no one's found a way to make it good. But
the other thing is Young Pyromancer is my favorite Magic card. And I feel like that is a setup for me to play Magic very much the way I want to.
Yeah.
So regardless of whether it's good, I'm going to get to play Magic the way I like to play Magic.
Yeah, that makes sense. You should throw a Bedlam Reveler in there.
Probably really throw a fucking main deck Blood Moon in there.
Oh, yeah.
Just like 2...
Or Blood Sun.
Just like 2 fucking volcanic islands, and then like 3 mountains and a shitload of islands or something.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely easier than playing Miracles for 15 rounds. All right, I think we're drying up here. One other quick point: there is an SCG in Dallas this coming weekend, isn't there?
It's actually in Fort Worth.
Oh, okay.
A whole nother thing I like to complain about. It's in the Dallas area. But yes, there's a Star City this weekend in the Dallas area.
Yeah, I think it's Team Trios, which I would love to go. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to Denver, so I can't play in it, but it sounds fun.
You can always come out to our vintage.
That's true. That's true.
I know a bunch of us looked at it and it was just like the side events at the Star Cities are so much worse than they used to be. So like I haven't been to one in 2 or 3 years, and they're 4 hours away from here. It's just like, hey, you spend money on a hotel room, you spend 8 hours in the car, and it's just, for me, it just wasn't worth what you got out of it. I was like, I'd rather just play Weekly Legacy and then go out.
I mean, I'm not a GP or I'm not an EV stickler, so like I don't care about that so much. But like,
well, for me, it's more like best case scenario. Even when they were doing the Legacy Classics, it's like best case scenario, you play like 6 rounds for $40, or I could play 4 for 10 at home. And it's like,
no, I get it.
And like, I only play 6 rounds if I do well. I could play 4 rounds, like definitely be out by 5 o'clock, and then go out with my friends. And so that's why I'm off the Star City events. If there was one in town, I'd do it. I wouldn't 8-hour round trip it.
I get it. I mean, I think that the team events are fun just because you get to spend all day potentially playing with people you know well. Although in our case, it's like you have to find someone who plays standard, and like if I was assembling a team, I don't know how I would find someone who plays standard. But
you go to the local game store with a fucking sign like you're a limo driver at the airport. And
I mean, that's literally it. Or you have to draw straws, which I think you would draw straws because like the point of it is to have fun with your friends all day. So you know, you can.
That's just it's just kind of a thing for me. It's unfortunate that all the Texas events are in Dallas. Well,
I mean, it's unfortunate that Texas is the size of a small country. Like
it's literally the size of Texas.
It's absurd. But I mean, I have a bias because I'm originally from one of the smallest states.
Well, and you're a little bit closer to all the cities. You're more centralized than Houston is.
That's true. Yeah. San Antonio and Houston are both pretty close to me, and Dallas isn't.
Yeah, like we had this discussion. Pat was looking at running some big events for Legacy, like maybe dual lands and stuff. And I know you had told her like it's got to be Saturday, and it's got to be like 11 or noon. And she, like didn't want to do that. And it's like that's the way that you get these guys from Houston to come. Yeah, they need to be able to like if you want me to travel to a 1-day event, like I need to be able to wake up, drive there, and then get to the tournament.
It's absolutely true. And I mean, I think for what it's worth, like even for locals, I personally prefer to play on a Saturday instead of a Sunday. She's like done some Saturday events since then. And the other problem is obviously that Magic players are just like so flaky all the time. Like you can set up an event and they still won't come out.
Well, that was part of our thing with when we did the first tournament in Austin was that we basically got enough people that we could go to people. We got enough people from Houston that said they would go that we could go to people and say, we can guarantee this thing is firing. Yeah. Our team is bringing enough people that this will fire. So like, you don't have to do the thing where you go, well, no one else is going to go, so I'm not going to go. And then everyone does that. So there's no tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And at this point, we are so far off track of anything we were talking about. Also, for listeners, Ben's internet connection dropped, so it's just me and Sam.
Ben died.
Ben is dead. He had a good run for 29 years. He's turning 30 in a week and a half, I think.
Yeah, I'm turning 30 the day before we do a vintage.
When's your birthday?
May 14th, usually Mother's Day.
Okay, yeah. Ben's is February 1st, so
he's coming
up. Better do something nice for him.
Yeah, we'll do something like take him to the strip club and do a draft.
I think he'd be down for both of those.
Separately,
plan on that.
Or together.
Either or, like any combination of the above, I think works.
Well, I guess with the GP being the weekend before his birthday, we'll just do something on the GP weekend.
That's a good point, huh? Yeah, his birthday's on a Thursday. It looks like. Yeah, you guys should just like play a side event with him and just like scoop to him if you get paired against him.
Play a side event with him and just like bring a bottle of booze.
I mean, yeah, that's fitting.
So it's a legal play. Well, I mean, it's not, but
what a quality cast. We should really start a Patreon. Our quality is so high that we deserve it.
We have a Patreon. It's called Sometimes You Don't Pay Out 100% to Vintage.
All right. Well, listeners, I hope you've enjoyed this. One of my New Year's resolutions is to actually make sure this cast happens at least once a month. So expect more of this great content moving forward in 2018.
This is high quality content. I assume we'll have one at least a week after next for talking about how the GP went, which will be I played a 3-round Legacy event.
Yeah. I went 0-3 drop. Yeah, if you guys want to do a follow-up on that, and like I said, I'd like to have an episode with Tweety and Patrick to talk about our vintage thing. But
yeah, I'd be interested in doing that with you.
We've got great content set up. Yeah, I'm meeting with them tomorrow to do some event planning, so I'll let you know what their schedule is.
So official meeting with people. I just fucking tell people how it's going to be.
No, this is the real deal. We're setting up the future of vintage over here.
I mean, we had, I think my favorite thing that happened at Goy Invitational was I walked outside and was like, hey, like pairings are weird, so we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And like half the people weren't listening. And Sean just goes, dude, this is like, all of this is always your deal. Just make a call and we're all going to be cool with it. And like 1 person out of 10 was like, you got an extra buy? I'm like, yeah, and I'm not going to win. And I did it so everyone could play Magic. He's like, okay.
Yeah. I don't know why we didn't do a recap episode of that. That was
none of us remember it.
Yeah, it was good. Shout out to Sean's barbecue guy.
Yeah. Fucking this is a very Texas thing. We were talking about like how we were all going to chip in money and stuff and what we want to do for lunch. And he was like, I've got a barbecue guy. And the situation was like very strange. He went to the barbecue guy's brother's house, picked up a cooler and brought it over. We ate, and then he was like, I got to clean this out and like take it over. Like, no. Joanne was like, no, we'll take care of it. So they cleaned it out. And then Joanne took back to the barbecue guy's brother's house.
It was so absurd. And like, as mentioned, Ben and I are both from Connecticut originally. Patrick Vincent, who was there, is from Alaska. I'm sure there were a couple other non-Texas natives. To hear the concept of someone having a barbecue guy is just completely insane. It's not a thing that would ever happen anywhere outside of the lower half of the country. It's definitely sub-Mason-Dixon line stuff.
We had a little bit of problem with it. Like we didn't prepare well for when we timed it, so we ended up having like 90 minutes between rounds on a tournament we were streaming. I thought my favorite part was we're all like, this is way too much food, and Joe just left a giant chopping block with all the meat on it and a chef's knife, and people would just like walk in, like cut off a big chunk, and then just like walk around the house with their chunk of barbecue.
Yeah, that was a weird event because the night before I got very drunk and I was really hungover for the first like 2/3 of the event. So when the food got served, I didn't even want it, and then my hangover went away, and it was just the best thing in the world eating that barbecue.
We also had Joanne. I left all my stuff at Joanne's house, Joe and Joanne's house, and then just came and picked it up the next morning. And Joanne stayed up till 6:30 in the morning talking to Tim.
Yeah,
so like I was texting her like, "Hey, is it a good time for me to come over?" And she didn't wake up till 1:30. She said Tim stayed till 10:30 a.m. and only slept like an hour.
It was insane, and he had to like work the next day. Yeah. Patrick and I woke up at like 7 to head back to Austin, and they were just still out on the porch. It was, I don't know, man. I can't do that.
Yeah, I imagine that was and then I was texting them. I was texting Joe and Joanne, and like was like joking, like, "Well, let's just go to do this." And like the next day, she was like, "Why didn't we go out last night?" I'm like, "Because you had out of bed at 1:30. I figured you didn't want to do anything."
Yeah, that was so insane. Well, I think we can call it a night here. Yeah, thanks everyone for listening. It's been entirely without structure and wonderful. So
that's the best kind.
Podcasting.
Yep. Watch out for On the Mana Drain and LoneStarLhurgoyfs.com talking about planning for Grand Prix Houston. We also should have an announcement on the next Austin tournament relatively soon. We've got Vintage this weekend in Houston. And are there any other announcements I forgot?
No, I think that's everything. But yeah, it's
also we got the episode number right on the first try this time.
I can't believe it. Like, I know next time we're not going to be like, "Oh, welcome to episode 16.
To be fair, I went to the website like 2 seconds before we started broadcasting and be like, what was the last number?
It's like, why are we even saying the episode number? Is anyone like listening and they're like, wait a minute, I thought this was
is this episode canonical?
All right. Good night, everyone. It's been real.
Well, it's been something.